Now for the last steps. So I have the two slider boxes, but they're both starting out at the same spot. They do go to different locations, the buttons, but now I'm going to change them so they are not starting from the same spot. In Dreamweaver, in the code view, I'm going to go into my JavaScript section that is controlling where the buttons are. So to line 100, and this is what's setting where my slider box 2 is going to slide to. So I'm going to change that top 20, and I could change the left as well, but I'm just going to keep it at the center for now, and let's preview that. So now it slides in, and it goes to top 20 and into the center. So now let's just go over. So this, when I'm at line 100, which is in the JavaScript section, the values that I put here for the top 20 and center are where your box will slide to. So you want that to be a different spot, or maybe for some reason you want it to be the same spot, but just so you know how to edit it, than the original slider box, which starts at line 45. Where it slides in from is controlled in your CSS. So slider box 1 slides in from its original position of top -400 and left 400, and slider box 2 slides in from its position of top 200 and left -200. Okay, now the next thing is, how do we get some images instead of buttons? I'm going to scroll down into my body type again, into my body, and I'm looking at the input type. So instead of button, I'm going to change this to image. And then I'm going to click all the way at the end of this line, right after my last quote, and before the closing tag. Put a space, and start to type in source, which is SR, and then I get the code helper. I'm going to double click that, and it gives me through the code helper to browse, and I'm going to look for one of the images, and I just added some to my site folder. Just a couple of simple GIFs. And I'll do the same thing for another one. So now when you click on that button, it's going to take you to the values that were set up for the center page. And I'm going to do the same thing for the one that has the right bottom of the container. I'm going to change that input type to image, go all the way to the end, after my last quote, but before the closing tag, SR, and then use my code helper, double click it, browse, I'm going to look for my other arrow, and click OK. So now let's save and preview. So now, instead of buttons, I have little images. And they work in the exact same way because they have the value set to them as the buttons did. Last bit of review, just to remind you, if I wanted to have a background image for one of my slider boxes, I could set that in the CSS as well. So if I came down here and I started to type in B, I could choose background image, and I can browse, and I'll just put, so I'm in slider box 2, I'll just put one of these images to be my background image. And I do have to have a semicolon at the end of that to work. So slider box 2 now has an image, and it is repeating. So I could go into the CSS and I can change that. At this point, also, you can remember that you have the CSS styles panel, and if you feel more comfortable in editing any of your divs with IDs through the CSS styles panel, I could just open it up here, and under my background where I have it, I could choose repeat, no repeat, or if I did want it to repeat. The last thing I want to cover is just to point out all of the different types of input types besides an image or a button. So I'm just going to add another input. Start with my opening tag. Start to put in input. Choose enter so that I let the code helper help me. Type. Choose type. And so you see there's a long list here. So besides button, I also have a checkbox, file, hidden, image, password, radio, so on and so forth. Okay? So just to point out that you have more options even that you can play with and experiment besides the image and the button. I'm going to delete that. So now this is really just a starting point. And you could have lots of fun with this, play with it. Again, I would kind of encourage moving away from the button format, but you could use the button format, or you could make your own images that look like buttons. But think about the possibility of layering images and perhaps how you can tell a story through images that open up and reveal the other images underneath.